I think we're live. Just gonna wait for it to say that we're live on YouTube.
It says live on custom live streaming service on my end.
I don't see it on YouTube yet, though.
So cozy in my apartment while it's raining.
Say that we're live on YouTube. Oh, great. For some reason okay, I'm just gonna have to look at this chat to see. Hello, everyone. I'm here with a very special guest, Shannon. I'm gonna introduce myself first, and then Shannon, you can introduce yourself. My name is Alanna from AlannaHeavenly.com. I am a channel and I provide one-on-one intuitive guidance as well. You can check out my services on AlannaHeavenly.com. I wanted to start having some type of talk show so that I can communicate directly with people. You know, when I'm in my zone, when I'm trance channeling, I don't really get to show much of my personality. So I really wanted to connect with people on that level and also just be able to interrogate people like Shannon. And so I'm happy to introduce Shannon to everyone. And we've known each other for decades. And she's seen a side of me that like many people have not seen. So Shannon, tell us who you are.
I'm Shannon. I've known Alanna since like kindergarten. And we lived together for a while, and we grew up across the street from each other, well, around the corner from each other, all that stuff. So I do motion graphics. I used to do web development. I still do a little bit of it. I do motion graphics, and I sew and I paint and all that art stuff. And I like puppies and kittens and flowers.
Yes. Can everyone hear us okay? Would you mind? Can someone just say that they can hear us? There's 4 people watching right now.
Oh, that's nice.
Don't be shy. I don't want to get started until I get confirmation. 5 people watching. All right, guys. Well, feel free to ask questions as we talk. I don't want anyone to be shy. I'm going to be taking a look at chat as we're talking, and then, yeah. So I need to record this as well. All right. So something that's really what I appreciated about growing up with Shannon is that I met Shannon when I was maybe, thank you for confirming that you can hear. I met Shannon when we were like 7, I think it was first grade around then. And when I saw Shannon, I was like, who is that child that looks like me? She has dark skin like me. She has like pigtails, like her hair in twists. Shannon and I grew up in a community that was not very diverse. And I was like, whoa, this other Black girl, who is she? Where has she been? And so since that moment, Shannon and I were essentially inseparable. And we were always hanging out together every day after school, really supporting each other in different ways. And while we have very separate personalities, many different personalities, we've kind of led this parallel life, which is really interesting and that I'd like Shannon to talk more about. But in terms of Shannon's upbringing, Shannon is very like open spiritually and exploring extremely different methodologies. Can you tell us about how you were raised that way, like how you started to be open to different things initially?
I think my parents are very open, and I think they want like maximum intelligence from their offspring, I guess. Like they want me to explore different things and like be the best of the best. And they're very much like not interested in the church, because you can see in some churches the type of people that come out of the church are not very Christian. So they're like, well, what are we doing? And then we're giving money to what and why? And we're sitting here, why? You know, so they kind of were like, do whatever you want religiously or spiritually. And
so like how did that conversation even start? Did you ask them about God and they were like, go exploring, do whatever you want? Or
there was like never a conversation. They're just like, oh, she's doing this thing. And there was never like, this is good, this is bad type of thing. It was kind of like, do whatever you want, unless there was something that freaked them out. Like I was like Wiccan for like a week, and my dad's like, why are you reading this? And I was like, eh. And that's just because I mean, Wiccans aren't anything in particular that's like negative. He just like didn't know the background of that thing.
So growing up, they never like instilled like we're a Christian household and this is what you must think. And did you guys ever go to church?
We go to church when we see other family members, because they go to church, and it's just like we will get a talking to if we don't. But now that I'm older, my sister's older, my parents are like, no, we're not doing that. We're visiting.
See, this is what I love about this is, so I grew up a completely different way. I grew up with born again Christian household. We would go to church a lot. When I was younger, we didn't go to church as much. We just went weekly. And then as I like got into high school, it got more intense in terms of when we would go to church. We would go to church on Wednesdays. We would sometimes go Sunday mornings and evenings. And it just got, I think my parents got more involved in the church, and my dad became an usher and like was on the board and stuff. And then I felt like, you know, when you're going through puberty, when you're 13 and you're in a community, you're living in a community, going to a school that is not very diverse, and you're always looking for some type of connection. I was looking for that type of connection in church through my youth group. And so I'd love to know, as you were exploring your different modalities, seeing what you were interested in, seeing your belief system, like, did you ever connect with a community that you vibed with? Or did you, even if you didn't vibe with it, did you try to connect with the community?
Well, there was like a while in like a couple of years where I went to your church, and I was super into that and super connected to that. But it was also honestly like sense of community. Like there are kids like our age there, and like being interested in how to be friends with those people. And then I got into the religion, but then it turned out I was crying every night because I thought my parents were going to go to hell because they weren't going to church. And then like, I don't know what flipped in my brain, but I'm like, this is not for me, because it doesn't make any sense that people who I feel are so amazing and wonderful and who help other people and do other things, like why would they go to hell because they don't like stand in a building? So yeah, but I did go through a crazy phase where I was super, super Christian, like read the Bible every night, like, but I don't know about you, I'm saying I was very ostracized in school in every grade, and sometimes I did it to myself. But yeah, having that sense of community, whereas all these kids, and also you went to a church in the Bronx and they're very POC. So yeah, it was a lot of that.
Color.
Sorry, very much people of color. People of color. So yeah, I was very into it. And then I think I honestly got tired of crying.
You're like, screw this. Why am I so sad? I'm sad
all the time. And then one incident where I think like your church wanted to hand out pamphlets to like do missionary work, and my parents would not let me do that. They were like, no. So it also, that was interesting, where they were like, it taught me like, do your own thing, but don't encroach on other people, which honestly makes the most sense to me.
So what was your high school experience like outside of the church exploration?
I was gonna be like trash, but that's such a messed up answer.
If it's true, it's true.
I mean,
High school was so, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Shannon. High school was so terrible.
it's really bad. I had a clique, but it was like 5 or 6 people. I have very bad memories of like high school and middle school because I'm a repressive person. And I had like I go into therapy for like those kinds of things because I'm just like Alanna will be like, remember this? I'm like, I don't at all. Like I have no clue what you're talking about. It's like crazy. They don't remember like very specific things about my life. But clearly it was like a difficult time for me. It's just like you always feel like an outsider. And there was like a lot of stuff, and it was kind of in the 90s, early 2000s, where it was like super popular to be extremely thin, and like realizing that I wasn't fat, I just had like breasts and a butt, you know, and like realizing that now and not later, everything is ostracizing when you're like in the throes of puberty, you know? And so then I just like being the kid where like my parents weren't like the school I went to was a lot of rich people. My parents weren't particularly wealthy, but they made sure they got a place that was on the border that sent me to the rich kid school because honestly, there's more resources there. So like, why wouldn't you try to do that as a parent? So yeah, everything, it's like almost everything about my life doesn't put me in a place to be in a group in that environment. But I mean, I still had friends. Alanna and our other friend, we used to hang out with a lot. We were really close. We were like a trio for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that I mean, it's good to have friends. I had more friends than other people in our grade, even. So you know, I can't say I was like I had the worst experience ever, but it wasn't great.
Did you feel like you belonged? Because I feel like up until like maybe even a year ago, I've always been searching for a community that kind of accepted me. And even with like growing up with my family, I feel like I was always the strange child and just like, and you and I, we grew up together, but we're also like so different. And I think we mostly accepted our differences. And, and it was up until like last year when I was like, oh, this is who I am now. As of this second, this is who I am. And I don't have to be this way. I don't have to try to talk a lot. I don't have to try to be all like holy and Christian. I can love talking about spirituality and love talking about sex and embrace my anger at times and all of this stuff and just still be naturally me, and people will love that, and people will hate it too, but like people will love it because it's who I am.
I think that growing up, I was very introverted, and I flipped a while ago, and now I'm extremely extroverted. So it's very whatever. It's very easy for me to like meet people and invite them in, but that also comes with I'm like so open that I don't realize when a person is not the best person, and I'm like, I'll just figure it out. Like I'll hang out with them until they like hurt my feelings, you know. It's just like a mess. But you know, I'll even out one day. But like,
what do you think was wrong when you changed from introvert to extrovert? Do you think it was part of accepting yourself?
Partially that, and partially like it was so long. It was most of my life that I was introverted that I'm like, it's not helping in any way. It takes me a long time to realize things about myself, and it's just kind of like, well, like a lot of what happened was I freelanced full time for 2 years, and I was completely isolated. And a lot of that was like, oh, I went to meetups because I just need to be around someone. I felt like so lonely. I'm in a better place where I don't feel as lonely. And even that happened like last year, where I'm just like, it's okay to be by yourself, or maybe like a year and a half ago. And I'm still working on it. I realized that I kind of change a lot of myself every year. Like before I was even like a workaholic for a while, just to avoid like the feelings of being lonely, or the feelings of not knowing what's going to happen in my life, or even like spiritual stuff, because I still don't have that stuff figured out either, you know?
Yeah. I think for me, when I realized that I was an empath, and that there was a reason why I just wanted to stay at home all the time, it's because I wasn't sure how to like just clear my energy field, and I couldn't identify what energy was mine versus someone else's. So I really had to learn that through staying at home by myself and learning what my home frequency felt like. And then that way, whenever ever I was around someone else who, for example, if I'm sitting next to someone and I just all of a sudden get super angry, I'm like, wait, oh, this isn't mine. I know how to clear this. I can just like go like this, or I can say, I do not accept what you're sending me in my mind. Don't say it to the person. And can you imagine that? I do not accept that. I do not accept the anger.
I would definitely do.
Don't say that out loud. Say it in your head. But I've really learned how to manage whatever energy comes through that way. And so after that, I really started like wanting to hang out with more people, wanting to connect more, and just feeling more social in general. So how would you, I don't like labels, but how would you label yourself spiritually now? Would you call yourself a Christian? Like, who are you? What are you? What's your belief system?
I do not have one currently. For a while, I was Gnostic Christian. I read the Apocrypha, and I read other non-Bible Bibles for a long, long time. Like the teachings of Christ make sense, and it's really just about loving each other. Just a lot of it was chopped up and like mistranslated, and then the King James Bible came around and just completely changed words. Like it's like not to me. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go on a tirade. To me, it's like a lot of nonsense. I'm just like, it's literally these like couple of tenets where it's just like, hey, just be nice to people and help others so we can all work together and have like a better society in a whole. And it's just like, yeah. So I was Gnostic Christian for a long time because I was very interested in things that are kind of seen somewhat a cult, even though those things aren't a cult, but larger Christianity wants to make them a cult. And a lot of Gnostic Christianity is seeking the truth and seeking the truth within yourself. And if you go back to Gnostic Christianity, it's like you are God, and how to figure out how to open up and be God to other people, and not in a sacrilegious way. And I own my own self, I own my own life, and I can help you, and people can help me as well, and we can share together. And that's what a lot of Gnostic Christianity is. Now I'm not even that, because I just don't really want to label. I just want to be a good person. I don't need tenants to help me do that. Some people need the structure. Currently, I don't. Maybe I'll need it again later in life. And I'm open to accepting that.
Okay. I'm just going to check in with people who are alive now. Feel free to ask us questions. Shannon and I are just having a free-flowing chat right now about how we grew up together and talking about belief systems right now, and just how we manage being weirdos and accepting our weirdness, and that there are a lot of other weirdos out there that look like us. And yeah, so Shannon, what else is on your mind?
What else is on my mind?
Yes, let's talk about the Succession finale. Just kidding.
Oh, that was ridiculous. I was like, ah! It was great. Everyone should watch Succession. HBO Go is like $5. If you can do it, do it. Yeah.
Yes, this is just a long commercial for the HBO show Succession. This is now a Succession podcast.
I guess also a lot of, I feel like my parents don't realize that they lead by example, even though everyone leads by example. But my mother is a very strong woman. Like I used to have family dinners, family Fridays, and Alanna was always invited to, well, one, she used to live with me, so, but even after that, she's always invited to family Fridays because she is family. And my mom was like, I don't understand how I raised such like feminist women. And I'm like, what?
Am I included in that? Does she?
She has a daughter, so I assume she said it. You were at the table when she said it.
Oh, really?
Oh gosh! And then she just lead by example, which is very. She does what she wants. She tries to work stuff out. She definitely like when someone needs help, she helps them. If everyone's falling apart, she's a stable one. Like so, like I'm like lead by example, and then like on the religious side, like recently in the last year or two, she became Buddhist. She's a Reiki master. So it's really like finding your place in what works for you. And I appreciate that example. Like we don't really talk about religion at all in our house. Now she's very interested in like, come get some Reiki from me, come to the Zendo. Like, and she goes to a spiritualist church. She just started doing that. So I did that with her last week, just to support. She asked me for a while and I was like, I'll go because I have no excuse not to go. So yeah. Even though that honestly brings back like not great memories for me to like be in a church. So I have my own stuff to work out with that. I appreciate the church that she goes to.
I would like to pause because I want to make an announcement about what I'm doing soon. Shannon, are you excited? You know what it is.
Oh yeah, I am excited.
I'm super excited. So starting next week, I'm going to start offering free readings on YouTube Live, which means that either your face or your voice needs to be on screen with me, and we can do brief readings together. And in order to get more information about when that's going to be happening, specifically starting next week, go to my website, alannaheavenly.com, and subscribe to the newsletter, and I will be sending more details there shortly. It's not as straightforward because YouTube no longer has Hangouts on air, and so there needs to be some better way to get people on screen with me. But I'm so excited to give these free readings. It's going to be like maybe 5 minutes each for people, and whatever you want to talk about, we can talk about, and I'll read you. Maybe I'll read Shannon right now. Just
oh no, yeah, go ahead, do it. I don't even know if I have anything.
I'm not gonna put you on the spot like that.
It's fine. I'm like, what question would I even ask? I don't even know.
Hey, whatever comes up, I'll just be like, "Are you doing this?" But no, I'm not gonna read it.
Okay, yeah, put me on blast, and we'll see what happens after that.
I'm not in the mood right now to put you on blast. Not in that way, anyway. So let's see, what else? How did you ever doubt your belief system? I know you talked about when you were like super Christian and decided that you no longer wanted to believe that part of things, but did you ever doubt your belief system recently, or how do you go through any doubts?
I never am not doubting at all times because I have generalized anxiety. So I would like to work on having, even if I have no doubt about something will like pop up in my head, be like, but what if it's not? And I'm just like, come on, I just want to like be relaxed at some time. And it's something you have to work on, it's something you have to constantly work on because it's believing in yourself and believing that you're going to be okay and you're going to figure it out for the most part. So a lot of doubting of belief systems is doubting in yourself and not supporting yourself. That's a lot of the times what the root of it is, just the feeling of being unstable in some capacity.
Do you have a mantra that you use to help you like recenter yourself?
A mantra?
When you're feeling doubtful?
When I'm feeling doubtful, I'm usually like, you're okay, you're gonna figure it out. It's not like a mantra where I'm like, I'm gonna say this thing, it's the thing that I say. And I'm like, oh, I guess it is a mantra. But yeah, I'm usually saying that. And it's true. So it's also frustrating to me to continue to have the doubt because I've thus far been pretty okay in my life and figuring stuff out and working stuff out. Recently, I was let go twice in a row. And I was at the end of my savings and 4 months looking for a job. And I was like, I don't know what is going to happen. I thought I was going to get a job pretty soon. And then I just decided to start freelancing, which I did before. And I'm like, why didn't I do this immediately? Because now I'm, again, pretty stable. So yeah, it's just, and that's doubt. Like if I had not had any doubt, and I had fears about freelancing because of stuff that had happened previously. So it's like, again, fear-based. So it's kind of just like, well, what can I do at this moment that is like the least path of resistance? And that was freelance, and I just like wasn't realizing it. There's this platform called Upwork, and even I would play games on my computer and it would pop up as a commercial, which the commercials for games are usually other games. And I'm just, it's in my face and I'm just like not listening. So,
and you just ignored all the signs.
All of the signs. I always do that because I'm always just like in my head, like, what am I going to do? I'm very like, I'm doing this thing on this path. I'm going to get a job. And like it's a lesson in being more open in general, because you don't know what the thing you're asking for is going to come as, and you should just into accepting it, and it'll probably come a lot faster. And I'm learning that all the time, and I'm not learning that lesson.
Mm-hmm. So how do you embrace your individuality as an adult right now?
Just doing stuff that I feel called to do. So like I ignored doing art for a long time. I started sewing a while ago, and now I'm kind of like fully embraced it because I like gained weight and I feel like I can't shop for myself. And I was like, F it, I'll just make it. And that is a large part of my individuality. I feel amazing when I wear my own clothes that I made, because it's like, this fits me the way I want it to fit in the pattern that I like, you know, the fabric that I like. And painting, I've started painting. That's very much part of my individuality, but also being okay with myself to maybe be embarrassed. Like a lot of times I have a lot of, I think I have like some issues dealing with like, does this person like me or not? But you know what? If that person doesn't like you, then you're not for each other at that point in time.
Let's talk about that more. Did you say you embrace being embarrassed, or you're okay with being embarrassed now?
Yeah, I mean, embarrassment's happen because embarrassment is just it's just like a new thing that happened that you didn't want it to happen that way. So, whatever. And you kind of like get over it. Sometimes they come back because that's the way the brain works. And I feel embarrassed about something that happened a while ago, but you're just like, does that person even remember? Probably not. So you just try to like move past it, try to resolve it within yourself. Not but try to like let it go.
Yeah, I want to talk more about embarrassment, because that was a lot of the reason why I just would not talk at all for a long time. I was just worried about that I just didn't have anything valuable to say, or that no one wanted to listen to me, or that I was just like a dumbass in general. And
to me in our friend group, I'm like, oh, Alana's the smart one. And then you say that you don't feel like that. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, that makes no sense to me.
But like over the last few years, just learning that I actually have some valuable opinions. Everyone does have meaningful opinions. And if I keep everything to myself, then that means that there's a person that will potentially miss out on their own feeling. Like, it's possible something that I say will activate another person. And just like what other people say activates me. And I think that's so beautiful that we're all just like this tangled web, and whatever we say to each other can really help us in our healing and our growth. So, and I don't want to be the one that's just holding people back by holding myself back first. So now I'm like, okay, I want to do a talk show. I'm going to do it. Like, let's do it today. Let's try to do it tomorrow. I don't need to like be a perfectionist anymore. I can just try to go on YouTube, see how it goes, see if we get questions, talk about random crap, talk about Succession if that's relevant, and then that's it. And then I can see how I felt after that, if I want to keep doing it. But life is about experimenting, and it's about being creative, like you said, like making your dresses, deciding, screw it, I don't like any of these dresses that are being sold in my size, so I'm making my own dresses. And yeah, that's how life should be. Creating life, creating, because I feel like when you're not creative, it's definitely just like you might as well be dead inside. That's how I feel anyway. When I'm not being stimulated, when I'm not creating, when I'm holding myself back, it's just your life force energy is dead. And then it takes a while to get that back, get that going again. So what made you stop doing artwork initially?
Again, everything is fear-based. So like a fear of people disliking my work, fear of critique. Like I invite critique, but people give critiques when you don't ask, and I don't like that. So that stuff. But in the end, that doesn't actually matter. Like that only matters if you decide that it matters. Even if you're like, oh, I want to become a great artist, and like critiquing is what matters when I'm becoming a great artist. I mean, it doesn't have to matter. You could be an avant-garde artist and then someone discovers you and then bang, you're in. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. Or you could just be doing art for yourself because it makes you feel free. So a lot, and also a lot of ignoring, like feeling like I couldn't make money off of it, basically is a lot of it. Cause I still am interested in money, but even last year, it's very much like, how much money can I make? I want money so I can travel, get whatever I want. It makes me feel stable. I can help like my family and friends when they need it. But also I'm laying those burdens on myself. Like I don't have
What? Can you repeat that?
laying those burdens on myself.
Yeah.
Like like I don't have to be ready to help someone. If I have the money or the thing that someone needs, I will be happy to give it to them, but I don't have to prepare myself to always be there for someone else. And that's a lot of like not having self-care, like caring about others too much, which is like, as someone would say, oh, you can't care about other people enough, but you can have actions that drain you. And
yeah, you have to care about yourself. Put your own oxygen mask on first before you help others.
Yeah.
What were you saying about draining?
I think that's what I was saying about training. Pretty much that you have to sustain yourself before you can sustain others. So now it's like, okay, I'm freelancing and I have to make a budget and I can't do this and that because I'm not making as much as I used to, but I'm sure the momentum will grow. I'm literally in my like 2.5 week of freelancing and I've already like made enough money to pay the bills I need to pay. So, and that's also part of like opening up to be like, oh, this is the thing I'm going to do, making the decision, be like, and come to it with an attitude of like happiness, enjoyment, or like you're on a path to the place you want to go, like instead of like resisting it, which is usually the thing that I do first before I do anything else.
So what advice do you have for people that feel so alone and just feel like not connecting with others, and like what do you have to say to someone like that?
Well, it's still something I struggle with a bit, but it's about becoming comfortable with yourself. Like, what can you do with yourself that you enjoy if you are feeling disconnected from others? So, like, if you enjoy art, get really deep into that. If you enjoy reading, get really deep into that. Now, I mean, I grew up in the computer age, but you can also like, there's tons of places you can go to interact with people if you feel uncomfortable or like you're just not close enough to be with people physically. There's like tons of places like, I mean, some of them are toxic, but you can find a place on them that's not so toxic. Like there is like Facebook and Reddit and Instagram where you can like be amongst other people virtually, and that can be a step towards like finding other people. Or like I forced myself to go to meetups, and it was completely awkward and weird not knowing anyone, but having a game night with a group of people that you didn't know. But you know, once you're in the environment and you're like, oh, this is actually not bad, I can figure this out. And then honestly, a lot of after that experience, I was opening up to being like, hey, I'm Shannon and this and that. I still have like a little thing where if I get a new job, I won't say anything for a couple months because I just don't know the dynamics of the people. But usually I end up talking to someone and they're just like, oh, they're just like, oh, I thought you were quiet and weird, but you're like fun and crazy. That usually happens, which I don't mind. I don't mind that they're saying that I'm weird because I am, but that's part of, and to me, it's fun, and it creates more conversation to be like, oh yeah, I'm into this and that thing, and this like weird conspiracy thing, and did you hear this or that? No, it's fun for me now. It's fun to talk to people and I now just like learning about people and getting to know people. Before I was very much like, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I do the wrong thing? And they're just like, oh, that weirdo. Now I'm just like, cool, I don't care. I'll find other weirdos to hang out with. You know?
Yeah, who cares? Who cares if you're weird?
To that point, because it's like you have to let go of the feeling that the feeling that people dislike you or that people openly like hate you. And that's hard. Some people have experiences and circumstances where that's extra difficult. I'm honestly in a place of privilege where I'm just like, I don't have anything that would ostracize me from others except for like myself, you know? So it's just like other people aren't in those circumstances. And
I've recently come into a place where, especially at work, in the corporate world, there are people that in order to show that they know everything, they need to talk all the time and just like say things and just be the one that talks in all the meetings, you know? And I'm usually the one that's just observing people. I'm observing and I'm just like, I say, and I talk whenever I feel like I have something to say. Usually I'm just observing. And sometimes that really bothers people that I'm just so quiet and observing.
Bothers people. I'm just like,
and I'm like, what about this makes you uncomfortable? Like, I'm just here. Like, trust me, if I have something to say, I will say it, and I will say it loudly. But in the meantime, I'm just going to be just looking around, seeing what's going on, and just digesting what's happening.
No, continue.
I was just gonna say, it's so funny how insecure that makes people. What were we gonna say?
I have a pattern of being very blunt in the office place, so I'm usually quiet during meetings for that reason. Yeah, and I want, for a while, I still want people, I still want like the office environment to be nice. I don't like rocking any boats. So that's also a problem when it comes to like, hey, this is a thing that needs to happen now. But then when it comes out of my mouth, it sounds a lot more blunt than people like to accept.
Shannon will be like, if someone says, oh, this deadline is in 2 days, Shannon will be like, 2 days.
That is not always what I'm like. That is not always what I'm like.
That's what she means by blunt. Like, she'll just be like,
well, so like in my like 2 jobs ago, it was kind of like degraded to a point where I didn't care to be nice anymore, and then it like takes people off guard. So I'm usually like happily and bubbly at work, but then when things come crashing down, I'm just like, and just like almost like an exact opposite where I'm just like short and to the point, and then people are like, oh, Shannon's so upset. I'm like, I'm using a regular tone of voice. Like, I don't understand. And a lot of that is like the angry Black woman trope. And it's a systemic thing. It's a thing that's just ingrained in a lot of people. So it's kind of
talk more about that. Angry Black woman.
It's very difficult to even, if I'm not like, yeah, blah, blah, oh, can we do this now? It's like, Shannon's so upset. I'm like, I can talk like this and not be upset. I've literally had a director just like literally not listen to me while I was talking and then ask me a question I just answered, and I was just like, and I started laughing because it was so absurd. And then luckily I have people who are, I don't know how, but I always have someone who's in my corner who will like help to diffuse that situation. It's just like, it's so nuts that you would label me as someone who is randomly upset when you don't even listen to the words that I say. It's a lot of that stuff. But also, I do understand where some people are coming from. Like when they think you're one way and then you're another, and they're like, you seesaw all the time. You're either super happy or super angry. I'm like, I think you're probably making me seem more angry than I am, but also this is falling apart. And I don't know how else to express that it's falling apart because you're not listening. So.
There was a time when I was so afraid of being the angry Black woman, and I just didn't want to be angry at all because my past bosses have all been like angry, had anger issues where they would like bang on the table, they would yell and everything. And just like growing up, I was always like afraid of angry people, so I would never embrace my anger. But now I'm embracing my anger. And when I'm angry, I make it clear that I'm upset and that I'm angry. And, you know, hi, Jay Walker. And I just, you know, anger isn't a bad thing. It can be a really great motivator. That reminds me of one of the channeled messages that I recently posted from Malcolm X, and was about what are you doing with your anger? If you let it just sit within you, and then it becomes a disease. But if you let it motivate and guide you, then anger can be really useful. Anger can be very helpful, and it's not anything to be fearful of. So as long as you're not harming anyone or yourself, of course. Yes. So for those who just joined, Shannon and I are having a talk about being weirdos. We're talking about embracing our anger and being angry Black women and working in corporate life. And what else, Shannon? What else is on your mind?
Realizing how like free I am. I'm in a circumstance that other people are not. So it's like I live in America at this time in America where I've come to a place where I like got a job like before the recession hit. So it launched me on a career path to keep having work. Some of my friends don't have steady work because they didn't get a job before the recession hit, which is nuts on its own. Then I'm able to freelance. Some people can't. You know,
I also think in your situation specifically that you have taken certain risks and that's worked out for you.
Yeah.
So like you haven't. It's not a matter of. I do believe in like luck and like not just luck, but like you're in the right place at the right time and just things happen for you. But you also need to take certain risks when you're ready to make a change. And I do remember that you were in certain work situations where you were not happy with it. So you left, you found another opportunity, things like that. So I just want to give you more credit than what you were saying, because it does take action as well. Yes, getting hired during the recession was incredibly difficult. I was around at that time as well, and I started working for no pay just to get the experience and everything. So you and I had different methods of getting to where we are now, but like it all was action based.
Yeah. So like when I talk about being free, I box myself in a lot, and I feel like I'm one of almost everyone who does that. So like even in my experience where I was just like, oh, I must get a job to feel safe and in my apartment, and that wasn't the case at all. It's just kind of like trying to realize when you're boxing, and it took me several years to even get to this point where I'm like, oh, I've done it before, I could just do it again. Like that was because I understand there are some people who are not in that space where they're like, I feel like I have obligations to my family, I feel like I only have this one skill, like all of that stuff. But just don't let that stuff stop you from pursuing other things. And yeah, sometimes it's exhausting, but if that's the thing you want to do, you got to step forward towards it, no matter how long it takes. And that's a lesson that's hard to learn and to maintain, but you have to have the feeling and the willingness to do it. But you can achieve that.
Yeah. And also if you're feeling stuck in terms of like where you want to go in life, you can also it can be as simple as asking your spirit guides, asking for guidance. And then you'll find that you keep receiving the same signs and repetition and everything. And like, eventually you'll get it, even if it's like being knocked over the head, and you'll pick up on it. Like your example with Upwork. Upwork or Upwork?
Upwork, yeah.
Upwork, and you saw the same ad for it, and then
it still plays on my phone. And I'm like, why is it on this ad?
A few weeks later, then like it clicked. Oh, let me just join this site. Let me rejoin and see what's there for me.
Definitely. I don't really listen sometimes. Most times.
Okay, we can all be that way. I always say to my spirit guides, you guys need to be super, super clear with me about stuff, because otherwise I'm just not going to get it. I also say that to real people too. I'm like, you need to. My love language is being very clear in communication with.
That's not a love language.
It is a love language. I love when people are very direct with me. Like if you're into me, that's amazing. Like I would just rather it be direct and clear, because I don't want to play any guessing games. That's a waste of everyone's time. So that is my love language, Shannon. Okay, so feel free to ask questions in the chat. If you have any, you can ask anything. You can ask Shannon anything. She's an open book. Just kidding.
Kind of true. I should probably close my mouth a lot more.
But you can ask us about whatever you want. And if you missed the announcement before, I'm going to start offering free readings on YouTube Live. And I need to figure out the technical part of it. It will likely be on Zoom, probably. That may be the easiest way to do it. But check out my website and join my newsletter for more information when that happens. It's going to be a weekly thing. So that's exciting. Shannon is the most excited. What else before we wrap?
My love language is touching and quality time. Just thought everyone should know. And I forgot to paint my wall before we started. I could see all the white spots.
And Shannon's number is 555.
Please, I get enough automated calls, and I thought legislation was in place, but it's not working.
So sorry.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Shannon, for being my lovely special guest.
Special guest!
And everyone, to remind you, my name is Alanna, and you can check out my services on alannaheavenly.com. I offer one-on-one sessions, and subscribe to the YouTube if you want to be notified about more things like this or other completely random things like my trance channeling that I do. And join my newsletter on what?
I said, is that random?
Sometimes it comes up randomly if there's a random, the Tree Collective that randomly popped up, and I was like, okay, let me just do this. So, okay, if no one has questions, you can always add questions later, and I'll make Shannon answer them, or I'll answer them. We'll see. Maybe both of us, if you're lucky. But thank you, guys. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.